I want to just chunk this down because you have shared some amazing things. The first part I want to dive into is because we've kind of kindered over, having something comes falling at us and wondering what the heck is going on. And you mentioned that key thing. When something like this, like MS or another chronic illness or something that affects somebody, there's that period of confusion. There's that period of doubt. There's like, who am I now? Like, what is going on? I just want you to take us to that space, that mindset of when that was going on for you. And I recognize it's different for everyone because it can last longer than a year's time. But for you, when you were sitting in that place, confusion, feeling like the ground was leaving beneath your feet, what was it that helped you shift from taking this confusing place to making sense of what it's going to be for you moving forward?
I sat there for a long time, and you still sit there sometimes when you aren't sure about the next step, or if something's going to work out, especially when you have, I guess I would say, an identity, right? Like, I owned a flower shop. It was my shop. Everybody knew that I owned a flower shop. They came to me for everything. Oh, go see my friend Mary. Oh, go see that. Well, I don't have that anymore, right? Like, I don't have people say, oh, go see, go see. And that was really, really hard, I would say.
Mm.
But after sitting with it for a while, I realized that I didn't want anybody to feel the way that I felt in those moments. I want to be there to help give tools to people so they don't feel alone. I know it is different for everybody, and I know everybody's going to go through that stage. It's however you do it, that's how you do it. But there was no way on the face of this planet that I was going to let MS beat me at all. Not a chance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, and I think sometimes, like one of the things that you said, I was the go to. I was the go to for this. And when we talk about that power of identity, it's like hearing, will people still need me
Yeah.
now that I have a shifted of who I was known for? Who am I going to be known as now?
And that's what I was known for,
Mhm.
but I actually want to create what I'm known as. I want to be known as a warrior. I want to be known as the lady that refused to let MS get her down, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I want to be known as the person that was able to, even honestly, I'm not going to lie, Deborah, if I could just help one person not feel like that,
Yeah.
that would, that's my everything, right? And it's funny, not funny, but funny. Um, I owned a flower shop. What does flower shop, what does that do? It brings joy. It
Yeah.
brings life. Even in times of complete crisis, it brings beauty, right? So I don't want to be the go-to. I don't want to be known as. I want to be the person that can help and bring beauty to a really horrible situation.
Mhm. And when you were first told your diagnosis, what was your first reaction?
Honestly, do you want to know what happened?
Yeah.
Okay, so I had the seizures, ended up in the hospital on and off for a couple of weeks. My husband is such a rock star. I tell everybody this story. The first neurologist that I had thought it was headaches. Um, Said, I'll get you an MRI. The MRI clinic called, or the hospital called, and said that my MRI would be in June or July or something like that. My husband sat on the phone for the cancellation line and called back every 15 minutes until they got me in the next day. And then the that week went on and the week after went on. My legs had stopped. They started to get, I was a mess. My arms had stopped working. I was just because I was in a flare up. I was in a complete flare up,
Yeah.
having seizures, all of that. Ended up in the hospital on the Saturday morning because I was having seizures. And they said that if I had another one, I needed to go back in. So I went back in. I'm seizing, so they give me steroids.
Yeah.
We explain to them what's going on. And the doctor goes, this poor emergency room doctor. I know that this sounds so crazy that I'm feeling horrible for her, but I realize that she's probably had to give really bad news to people before. But I think this was actually the first time she ever had to tell somebody they had MS because she's not a neurologist, right?
Right.
So all of my test results were up on the Alberta Health Link, and they gave me the medication. She talked to the neurologist. She came in, and the look on her face, she was like, I'm really sorry to tell you this, but you have multiple sclerosis. And I said, okay, cool. Can I please just go home? Like, I don't want to be here anymore. And she was like, are you sure? I said, yep, I'm totally good. I just want to go home because those 2 weeks leading up to it, I'm the research lady. So I'm trying to figure everything out, what it could possibly be. And I I think I was in shock for about a week. And then after that week, I was like, okay, now what? Like now we're not going to sit in this for the rest of our life. This is not time to have a pity party on any level. How do you take care of yourself now? Because you've taken care of everybody all of these years and you've done this for everybody. So now
Yeah.
you need to take care of number one, and you are number one right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with knowing that, and I appreciate it from the healthcare side as well as, the patient side, but being there, the first thing that I react to when you share that story of just wanting to go home is, let's keep everything as normal as possible. Let's
Yeah.
keep everything just moving the way I'm used to it moving, and everything will take care of itself, right?
Yeah.
And it is that period of shock, but also this period of processing of what's next? Like, what is to happen to me? What do I have control over? What are those what ifs, but also what is possible,
Yeah.
right? And as soon as you said, this self-care part, because so often people get attached to a label. They get a diagnosis, and that diagnosis is there. It is of value, especially to the physician and the care providers. But for the patient themselves, they need to have a different understanding of what that diagnosis is, and
Yes.
not to just see yourself as living into this boxed label. And from what you've shared, Mary, you've already shown some defying the odds of what's possible. So, what has helped you move to taking on a mindset that helps you to say, okay, I need to take care of myself? And that was an automatic thing. I know for others, and even like myself, it's like, oh, let's see how long I can continue to keep everything like normal
Yeah.
until it no longer works, right? And then it's like, oh, okay, I've kind of hit a wall. Now you kind of like one of those wind up toys. You hit a wall, you back up, you go forward, you hit back up because you keep banging into the wall. And it's like, okay, so when are you going to get the message?
Yeah.
You, on the other hand, got the message pretty quick. So tell me a little bit more about what made you realize in that moment that self care was going to be one of the first things you needed to do.
I pray that I never end up in a wheelchair. That was my number one. I'm like, oh my goodness, I need to start taking care of myself because I really don't want to be in a wheelchair. Like I really, really don't want to be. So it came down to me making decisions. And this is the thing. I'm guilty. I'm 100% guilty for doing this too, because well, this person, I just need to do that. Well, no, actually, you don't. You don't actually just need to do any of that, because most of the time, those people can wait till the next day. I read somewhere, and I can't remember what book it is to save my life, but I think it is Who Not How. I think.
Oh, yes.
And they say, he says in it, he's like, the important things, how does it go? The the things that are an emergency are not important, and the things that are important can wait. I think it goes something like that. I can't remember the exact quote, but it's
Hmm.
true. If something is very important and it needs to get done, it'll get done in a timely manner, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's important for me to get these orders in for a wedding that's coming up, and it's also important for me to do paperwork. But it's also important for me to be on this podcast and explain to people why they need to take care of themselves. So for me, my big priority is this today. And so everything else can actually wait until tomorrow. And I'm not even going to stress about it, because there's no point stressing about it, because these people don't even know that I'm stressing out about it. I'm literally doing it to myself.
And that's the big thing. I think people don't realize that we actually are part of that component of stress, right? We
Yeah.
have good stress, the happy times that can put stress on our bodies. We have more negative stress that puts another stress on our body. But that internal pressure, our self-imposed stress, is probably the worst of all stresses. And others do not even know that you're carrying that stress in your mind.
If people, like a year ago, even now, because I stress out about stuff, and then I have to remember, okay, is this actually something that you need to be stressing out about, or is this a story that you're telling yourself?
Mm.
Because I'm pretty sure what you're thinking right now is not actually even happening. And I need to make sure that I tell myself that, right? But it's true. Like, you tell yourself these things, nobody knows that they're going on. You're stressing yourself out, and you're working yourself up into this frenzy for absolutely no reason, except you're going to actually make yourself sick, and you're going to end up with an autoimmune disease, and you're going to get told by the universe that, okay, enough, you're done. I'm going to make sure you're done now. Because I feel like that's what happened to me. I think that the universe came back around and was like, lady, you haven't listened to any warnings that I've given you over the last 3 years. So now you're
Yeah.
just going to sit your ass down and you're going to do what I tell you to.
Yeah. And then comes the 2x4, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So during your journey of self-care, what are a few things, like maybe three things that you found that were most important in the self-care journey?
I try very hard to talk kindly to myself, because like I said before, I am very mean to myself.
Mm.
Um, it's there's no blame to be put anywhere, but it's societal norms, and it's just, for me, a lot of mine was what I was putting into my mouth and how I was treating my body. And it's interesting, because I switched what I was putting into my body, and I don't really care what I put into my mouth now, as long as it's within what I can eat. And I actually managed to lose 10 pounds somehow by being nice to myself and not getting upset if I had an extra piece of chocolate or something. I try very hard to speak nicely to myself. I gratitude journal every single day, because I am so grateful every morning that I wake up and my legs work and I can move my toes. And I know a lot of people don't take that sort of stuff into consideration, but you should. Everybody should just, when they wake up in the morning, wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes, everything's working. Oh my God, it's going to be a magical day because my body is working, and this is so great. I am so happy. Um, and I would say do an inventory of who you surround yourself with. Because I've been out doing networking events and meeting different people, and I will tell you, it is so amazing to be around so many like-minded women because I didn't have that before. I was the only entrepreneur out of everybody, so nobody even knew what I was talking about half the time.
Yeah.
So it's really nice to be around people that actually get me. And, if you have toxic relationships, whether family wise, friendship wise, or whatever, um, really reevaluate them and see if it's actually feeding your soul. Because if it's not, why are you doing it?
So, Mary, what did you learn about, like, it sounds like we're talking about boundaries. What did you learn about boundaries and, doing that self-evaluation of the groups that you were around and knowing what you needed to do, what was draining, what was energizing you? Walk us
So,
a little bit through that process.
yeah. So I love boundaries. I'm the boundary queen. I love them. They're my favorite thing. Because a lot of people wouldn't know. So if I get really, really fatigued, 6:30, 7 o'clock at night, if I'm having an off day, my speech goes. I can't talk properly, or my body is a little bit slower, all of that. So I gave myself boundaries too. So when people are like, hey, do you want to come over at 7:30 for dinner? No, I don't want to come at 7:30 for dinner. I want to eat dinner at 5:30, 6 o'clock, and then be in my pajamas watching TV at 9 o'clock with a cup of tea. Those are my boundaries. That is what I'm doing, unless
Yeah.
it's been planned in advance.
Yeah.
Um, there's a lot of things that are draining that I don't think that people understand. So for me, I get drained by certain family members.
Mhm.
So now I limit my time with those family members. Instead of, let's say, 3 hours a week, now it's down to an hour a week. And I
Mhm.
don't even, this actually has nothing to do with having MS. This literally just has to do with you being kind to yourself and putting yourself in the places that you actually want to be and hold space for the people you want to hold space for. I have friends that, I thought we were thick and thin no matter what. And then I had other friends who I would have never in a million years would think that they would show up for me. And it's interesting because the thick and thin friends
Yeah.
are really nowhere to be found. And the friends that I thought I'm like, why would they even show up for me? Like, doesn't even make sense. Not even kidding you, daily. How's it going? What are you doing? And it's not, how are you feeling? That is the worst question. I'm going to just put this out there to everybody. If
Yeah.
you know anybody that has an autoimmune disorder or has any sort of ailment, stop asking them how they're feeling. They don't want to tell you. And if they do want to tell you, they will share it. How about you ask them, hey, how's it going? What's new? What are you working on? Because that is actually what they want to be talking about.
Yeah. And you know what's interesting, Mary, when you say that? I think of so many different scenarios when, even when I went off as well, that people all of a sudden don't know what to say, or
Yeah.
they think they got to give you so much space to heal. So they don't bother saying anything at all. And I think what it comes down to is people want to know that you're still interested in them for who they are.
Yeah.
Like, I am a person, I have interests, I have desires, I have goals. But all of a sudden, it's like, "Well, how are you feeling?" And they're expecting you to give them this long-winded message that you're doing terrible. And it's like, "Well, what if I'm not doing terrible? What if
Yeah.
I'm doing, like, this is 10 out of 10 today, so maybe I'll be 6 out of 10 tomorrow, but how am I today?"
Yeah. That would be the best question. How are you today? That is actually a beautiful question. And I think that's what everybody should just ask people on the regular. How are you today? Because you don't have to actually have something wrong with you to be having a really crappy day.
Yeah,
But this is the thing that people need to realize. When somebody says, "How are you today?" If you're not okay, it's okay to say, "Well, I'm actually kind of having a really crap day, and I'm going to tell you why. This, and this." And it's funny because people will look at you and be like, "Oh, I wasn't expecting that." What they're expecting is for you to say, "I'm good. How are you?" But if that's not actually how you're feeling, don't say that. Stop lying to yourself. Stop lying to everybody that you meet. Try it. It's freeing, I guess, would be the best way to say it.
Yeah.
I know lots of the people over at the grocery store because we've lived in the same neighborhood for, oh my goodness, 11 years, and they've all worked there forever. They know us by name. "Hey, Mary, how's it going?" I'm like, "Oh, good. How are you?" There's one lady there. I love her to death. She's like, "Hey, how are you today?" And I'm like, "Actually, I'm kind of shitty because my youngest son is moving to Vancouver and I hardly ever see him. And I feel really crappy about that today." And then she just kind of laughs at me and she's like, "Welcome to the life of motherhood. And I'm sorry you feel like that. Can I ring that through for you?" I'm like, "Absolutely." I feel better sharing that with somebody. I don't have to go down a rabbit hole and, wallow in self pity, but I'm just telling you that's where I'm at today. Then there's other days where I'm like, "I'm fabulous. I just ran 10K. How are you today?" So,
This is juicy. Okay, this is
right?
juicy to me because, okay, we're on to something here, Mary. So, you know that "how are you today" is so much more than this superficial, like, and it's like, "Oh, how are you feeling?" And it's to me, it's just superficial. We're just coating the surface.